Oh, yeah. Welcome to Talk Heathen. My name is Kenneth Leonard. With me today is Arden of Eden. Arden, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing awesome today. How are you?
You know what? I'm happy to be here. We got some callers coming in. It's going to be an exciting show. Let me get through these announcements real fast so we can get to them. First of all, Talk Heathen is a product of the ACA, a 501c3 organization dedicated to the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of religion and government. If you'd like to support Talk Heathen in the ACA, you can become a member by clicking the join button below the video here. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/talkheathen to me. We also have a channel now where you can get all of the shows that the ACA produces, but in audio podcast form. Visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. You can become part of the Talk Heathen community in our fan-run Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/talkheathenfg. If you want to continue talking to us after the show, come join us in ACD, our fan-run Discord server at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. And make sure to check out the newest version of the ACA show, The Nonprofits, which is going to be coming up right after us today at youtube.com/the nonprofits ACA. We like to give a shout out to our top 5 patrons every week. This week, our top 5 patrons are Eric Tweet, CJ Dennis, Dingleberry Jackson. That might be my favorite name, by the way. Balaam's Donkey, Paul Leah, and an honorary mention to the great North American Dingaloo, another all-time patron name. With all that out of the way, Arden, what have you been up to?
Oh, we had our weekly episode of Transatlantic last night.
Yes.
So, bashing bigots as always.
Sure. Yeah.
I got to watch the Hang Up over on the line live at Matt's house with Jimmy Snow this past Wednesday. So that was fun, getting to hang out with some people. But how about you? What's been up?
I mean, answering calls, talking to people, doing a little reading here and there. I'm excited about our first caller we've got in the queue. We've got David from California. Are you ready to dive in, Arden?
Let's go for it. Let's do it.
David in California. What I'm seeing is that you want to talk about your man Jesus. What's going on with Jesus today, David?
Yeah. Do you remember me from the other day?
I think so. Did we talk?
So, yeah, but I got cut off.
Oh.
Are you there?
I think
we talked on Atheist Experience, right? A week ago?
Yeah.
Right. Well, what can we help you with today?
Back for more.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to talk about the omniscience of Jesus, but you guys kind of led me down another path that I didn't want to go down.
All right.
Well, Little Red Riding Hood.
Well, we try not to be big bad wolves around here, but there's only so much we can do. If I remember correctly, let me know if I'm off here. You were saying that you look at the Bible as being evidence for the omniscience of Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so that's my perception of it. I just want to give some examples.
Okay, go for it.
Well, I know. Maybe I have to declare what I consider evidence first. I don't know.
That could be helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that you say that the Bible is not evidence, but I don't know how you decide exactly what evidence is, because there's pagan history, there's biblical history.
Yeah. Well, let's think about it like this.
Structures and so forth.
So I don't want to refer too much back to the prior call, because people who are listening or watching, they don't have that in front of them. But if we're just approaching the Bible and you're saying you look at the Bible and you see that it says certain things about Jesus, therefore Jesus is omnipotent. Would you apply the same standard to say
omniscient?
I'm sorry, omniscient. Forgive me. To say reading about the attributes of Superman in the comics and say the comics say certain things about the attributes that Superman has, therefore Superman has those attributes. Are we on the same page?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about what the Bible says and we're talking about what the comics say about these two different characters, now what?
Well, I think, I know the Superman story myself, and that came about right about the time that we were developing the atomic bombs around World War II, and we were discovering a lot of knowledge. And so there's a lot of knowledge in the Superman story that is actually true, and we're actually kind of paralleling that today. If you look at the Superman story, that's about where we are today in our progress.
Well, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I use Superman as an example because you can find examples of superhuman figures all throughout literature, all throughout history, all throughout religions, all around the world. And all of these different books and comics and traditions say certain things about certain people. But I think the question is, why should we care?
Well, the way I see the comics is you're developing Marvel Comics or whatever, those tend to deal with evolution theory and making gods and so forth. And I think that's kind of a pagan formula, which has been repeated numerous times. So it's something that's true. I can't deny that those gods were real myself. But I can go into the evidence as far as why I think the Bible is evidence. I don't know why you're bringing up fictional stories, but those do have true science and knowledge within them, and they actually reflect sort of what the pagan ideology is today, paralleling evolution theory and old age cosmology, David, and stuff like that.
Like, I think, David, there's something going on here, though. Like, we bring up this comparison to make a point, and you're kind of like I feel like you're biting the bullet maybe more than you actually want to, because when we're saying like, oh, like there's some truth to Superman comics, like I would agree with you. If you were to say there's some truth to be found in the story of Jesus, you probably could find an example that I would agree with you on. But I think that's not actually your claim. Your claim isn't that when you read the Bible, the story of Jesus, there might be something valuable there, or even a aspect of truth that you could apply to your life. Your claim is that Jesus exists and is the Son of God, right? So that's a very different claim from like, when I read Superman, I'm thinking about like how the development of the atomic bomb and like the amazing things that science and like human ingenuity can lead to. So like, can we get a little deeper?
It's the Superman. Yeah, the Superman story is true to a degree, and that's the pattern that you want to follow. So it's not, that's what you deem is true. That's the Superman model is what you deem is true.
But I don't think Superman is actually real.
True.
Yeah, I don't think that Jesus actually.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you do. You do think Superman is real. You think Superman is real because
I didn't know you could read my mind. That's really impressive.
The Superman story follows the pattern of modern man's idea of space exploration, conquering the cosmos in the name of Carell or whatever his name is. I don't know.
It also has X-ray vision and the ability to fly into the sun.
Yeah. And there are specific claims about Superman. Superman works in a city called Metropolis for a newspaper. We can look at the claims that the Superman comics make and know that Superman is not a real person.
Yeah, but according to you guys, evolution produces Superman, and that's what the Nazis thought.
David, how do we go from Jesus? The Bible says Jesus is omniscient to Superman is real to evolution to Nazis. What is the point that you're trying to make with your call? What do you want to tell us about Jesus?
Well, I'm trying to tell you why I think the Bible is evidence, but you're dragging me down another trail again, like Little Red Riding.
Whoa. Hold on. We did not go down the trail of saying that Superman is real. You're the one who brought us there. It was just an example.
Yeah, it's an analogy, my friend. But okay,
I realize it's a fictional story, but it does comprise a lot of truth in it. So I don't deny all the past gods. That's something you do. I don't deny those.
Well, okay, so if we're going to talk about Jesus, all right, and the evidence for Jesus, go ahead and make your case.
Well, I was just going to say why I think the Bible is evidence in the first place, and then I was going to give some examples why I thought Jesus was omniscient real quick. So the Bible was written by the Jews, for the Jews, right? And it was written over, a few centuries, anyways, over several centuries. And so it goes all the way back 3,500 years. And the Jews this is what their life revolved around. It totally revolved around the scriptures. They studied the scriptures daily. They copied the books all the time. They, lived their lives by it. Everything was governed by the law, everything from human rights to animal rights to, their codes, their civil codes and their penal systems and even their giving to, humanity. Or so forth,
Okay, you've told us now that you've got a book that is very old and that was especially significant to a group of people. All right, what else?
Well, yeah. I'm just trying to tell you why it's superior to pagan history, because pagan history, it kind of revolved around the kings, the rulers, right, and the leadership. So in the pagan history, in the Bible, it says you cannot add to or take away from it, right?
It does say that, yes.
Okay, so that's a higher criteria than the pagan history, because the pagan history doesn't say that. They could embellish it, they could censor it, they could do whatever
How
they
does
want
that
in the history. They
prove
could just
your point?
totally eliminate it.
David, you're not getting anywhere closer to evidence here, my friend.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's why the Bible is superior as far as a historical document, because their property rights revolved around it, their genealogy, keep track.
David, I got to ask you. So when you use a word like superior, there's a value judgment that's being made there. Superior in what respect?
Well, I'm telling you, it's superior in its meticulous method of recording it, because they had to keep track of the records for property rights.
What does any of this have to do with whether the Bible is evidence? Evidence of what? It has
to do whether it's historical. I said it has to do with whether it's historically accurate or not, because they put more emphasis on recording it than the pagans did on any of their documents. It's far superior as far as
David, I don't give a shit what the pagans did. What the pagans did is irrelevant to whether or not the Bible is evidence. I don't care if the pagans kept meticulous records or not. It doesn't matter. Okay, so do you understand the distinction between what evidence is and
what do you think? What do you think evidence is then?
Glad you asked.
Because that's my idea of evidence. It's a historical document that was meticulously copied and repeated and lived by it every single day of their lives.
Great. Evidence is anything that can be used to demonstrate that a claim is true. Anything would fall within the umbrella of evidence.
So the Bible cannot be evidence.
Well, the Bible is the claim. The Bible is a series of claims about things that happened.
History.
The Bible is not history.
No, it's history. It's not just a claim. Well, it's either true or it isn't true.
You're onto something there.
Okay. Yeah, right. So based on that, based on what I consider evidence, I think the Bible is superior to any modern scientific evidence, because evolution and climate change and old age cosmology.
Scientific evidence of what, though?
Yeah, let's think about what you're saying here, because let's just evaluate one claim. And I'm going to bring up a specific one because you've brought up evolution and cosmology and all this stuff. The Bible says that there was a worldwide flood that killed everybody except for one family and a number of animals who were preserved in a big boat. Do you think that story of the flood of Noah and the deluge and all that is a historical account?
Well, that's pretty obvious. It's historical. I mean, you can see the sedimentation all over the planet. You can see seashells on top of the entire surface of the planet, including the mountains. You can find fossils all encased in, global sedimentation that could only happen by a global flood, not local floods. Okay, that's all caused by a global flood.
Sir, I have to ask.
Ask me if I believe it. Yeah, I believe every bit of it.
Okay.
So I want to give you some examples of why I thought Jesus was omniscient, and I consider the Bible the higher evidence than even your modern science.
Okay, well, here's the difference between the Bible and science. Okay, science is subject to rigorous testing for scientific claims to gain any traction in the scientific and academic communities. There's this entire process that a claim has to go through, where a claim has to be verified by evidence. Not so with claims in the Bible. I don't know who has told you what you just relayed to us about what the evidence indicates about a global flood. But if you're under the impression that there is evidence in support of the flood narrative in Genesis, then you've been lied to.
Wait a minute, Kenneth. Okay, this is the Kenneth speaking to you now. The global flood or whatever, the Bible, science makes claims, right? They make claims too. They got eyewitnesses, and you say it has to be verified with evidence. Well, how many times have we seen science change over the years that people won Nobel Prizes, they did peer review papers, and then people came after them and disproved everything that they said?
It happens all the time. Isn't that great? That's how science works.
No, it's not great. It changes all the time. It's not trustworthy.
Are you afraid of change, David? Change is scary.
The Bible doesn't change. Okay, it stays the same.
That's not a good thing.
Of Jesus.
When new information comes forward, the honest thing for any of us to do in light of new information is to change our perspectives. One of the greatest weaknesses in basing one's worldview on the Bible is that it doesn't change.
No, but the new information that comes forward is constantly disproved.
Well, let's.
It's always disproven later.
When you say this, David, I don't mean to insult you, and I want to give you a chance to talk about the omniscience of Jesus, but it's becoming more clear the more that you speak that you don't understand science. I don't know what your level of exposure has been, but I would urge you to maybe. I'm sorry?
I have my own cosmology. It's called the Cosmology of David.
Well, the cosmology of David isn't worth jack shit in the scientific world if you can't prove your claims. There are professionals out there who dedicate their lives to understanding the universe, and you may consider reading what they have to say about this stuff. You may, with regards to flood geology, I mean, I would look at geology. I would look at biology. I would look at the number of different scientific fields that all converge to demonstrate conclusively that the flood story in Genesis is bullshit. There's no good reason to believe that it's a literal account of anything that ever happened.
Well, Kenneth, I have studied all this. I'm 58 years old. I've gone through it. I've been there, done that. Okay, I'm not going to keep studying evolution when I know it's not true.
Well, where have you studied? Where have you studied evolution? What would be an example of a source that you've looked at to gain an understanding of this? I'm sorry?
Can I give my example of Jesus' omniscience?
Yeah. Before you do, would you mind just telling me what your favorite source is for gaining an understanding of evolution?
I've been learning evolution since I was in high school.
But what source?
Yeah, where have you been learning? Because you sound pretty confused about it.
It changes all the time.
It doesn't.
Yeah, you've kind of usurped the Christian position now. It's totally changed.
Listen, nobody's usurped the Christian position. I'm just asking you, what is the best source? If you were going to direct someone here, if I wanted to really understand the truth about evolution, where would I go to find it?
It doesn't happen. So if you're going to find the truth about it, you have to go to the Christian scientist.
Give me an example. Who's a Christian scientist? Who's an authority here?
I don't know. Morris, maybe. I don't.
Henry Morris?
Those are old people.
Dwayne Gish? Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish?
I used to study.
I literally took classes with those men at the Institute for Creation Research in Santee, California when I was a child.
Yeah, I did too. I've learned all this stuff when I was young as a teenager.
They're liars.
Because it's not true. It's not true.
Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish are liars. I would strongly urge you to look at what actual scientists have to say. Neither Henry Morris nor Dwayne Gish ever did any actual research. They didn't publish papers. These are not scientists. These are not people who actually understand the science of evolution. They made a living off of misleading people and selling lies about evolution to evangelicals.
I don't believe in evolution. I don't see it. I'm 50 years old. I don't see climate change. I don't see old age cosmology. I don't see evolution. Okay, I can give you my cosmology if you want, but if you let me just give my evidence on why Jesus is omniscient, I can.
Well, let's go to Jesus because I think we're at a dead end on the cosmology stuff. But I would urge you to You're getting bad information from bad sources with regard to your science. But let's talk about Jesus.
I get all my information out of the Bible, okay? And then I pretty much judge everything by that. But I am a scientific person, okay? I got the highest grades in my class in astronomy, okay? Nobody even came close to me in astronomy. I understand astronomy. Very simple, okay?
That's great. Let me ask you one question about astronomy then, and I promise this will be the last rabbit trail. So do you understand that there are stars that are millions of light years away from Earth and we can see them?
Yeah.
How old do you think the Earth is?
Almost 6,000 years.
So how does light from a star that's millions of light years away get to a 6,000-year-old planet?
Well, the light is backing up like a stream. You ever seen a stream hit an obstacle in the stream and all of a sudden the water slows down? That's like your blue shift right there, where the water slows down at the obstacle and then it moves slower after the obstacle. That's kind of like the way light is out in the cosmos. It's moving at an infinitely or very rapid pace, and then it slows down, and that's why the waves get bigger as it gets further out.
Right, but what I'm asking you is, how is it that if it takes, we know how long it takes the light to get here from something that's that far away?
No, you know what it's like in your local galaxy, you or in your local solar system. You don't know what it's like beyond the local galaxies.
Where'd you get that information? Because I don't remember that part of the Bible, and I thought you got all your info from the Bible.
No, but this is in the Bible, because the Bible says that the CMBR, or the light was created on the days 1 through 3, right? God created light before stars. Now science has proven.
Yeah, light was created before the sun. That's right.
Light came before the sun, because the CMBR is light, and that was the visible light on days 1 to 3. So you cannot say that the Bible is not accurate.
Oh boy. All right, David, we could spend all day on this, but let's hear about the omniscience of Jesus. We've got a book that says Jesus was omniscient.
Oh, yeah. So, have you said you used to be Christian. Did you ever give a sermon?
I did.
Okay, he's back. Good.
I did. I've given sermons. Yes, I've preached.
Okay, so me too. I've given a few. So when you do your sermons, you normally write notes, right?
Yes.
Jesus didn't have to do that. He didn't have to write notes,
How do you know that?
He just gave a sermon.
How do you know that?
I don't read it in the Bible. He never said, "Hey, John, where was I there?"
The Bible never says anything about Jesus's notes.
I was talking to him. He didn't have any notes. He didn't.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
He just gave an impromptu sermon. And
how do you know that?
About what he was talking about, and it reflected the Old Testament perfectly.
How do you know that?
Because I read.
How do you know that Jesus didn't have notes?
Because I read it in the Bible.
It doesn't say anything about Jesus's notes in the Bible, David. You're being dishonest.
No, I know, but it does. There's nowhere where the apostles go, "Hey, Jesus, do you remember when you cast the demons out of that one guy, Legion? Or do you remember when you fed the 5,000? They never said that. Because
how do you know that the Gospels are an accurate reflection of anything that any of these people said?
Because I told you.
Because what?
The method was superior to any other recording method in history.
No.
Because they had
the Gospels. We don't have any sources that that come from the same time as the life of Jesus. You know this, right? The Gospels all come from decades later.
It doesn't matter if people do. It's obvious that people don't like the Jews. They're always trying to kill them off. Okay.
I didn't say anything about Jews. You talked about meticulous note keeping and meticulous record keeping. We don't have any Gospels that come from the same time as Jesus's ministry. We've got copies of hearsay evidence about what Jesus and his disciples allegedly said. We don't have any first-person accounts. We got nothing in the way of evidence here.
First-person accounts. Those are all first-person accounts.
How do you know that?
So, I mean, the Romans had an empire to record and store their information, and they don't have a very good record of their empire.
David, I'm not talking about Roman records. I'm talking about the Gospels. You just said they're first-person accounts. How do you know that?
The Roman records were not that good. And
David, I don't give a shit about the Roman records.
Back up everything.
I don't care about Roman records. You're talking about the Gospels. How do we know the Gospels are first-person accounts?
Because.
Oh, because.
It's
All right.
Yes.
I mean, because. Come on, man. This is not honest.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's history.
No, it's not.
It's history, and you can't.
How do you know it's history?
Because you don't have any better evidence. You sitting here.
Oh, okay. So we just have a big old argument from ignorance type of fallacy going on. What? Okay. So you're making the claim. The burden of proof is on you to demonstrate that your claim is true. You said the Gospels are first-person accounts. Prove it.
Yeah, but you can't come up with any better form of evidence. You tell me science, and that's something I can.
Evidence
Burden of proof isn't on me. You're talking about. You said we're dealing with one claim. The Gospels are first-person accounts. Prove it.
Time. Science is not trustworthy.
We're not talking about science. You said the Gospels are first-person accounts. Prove it.
Established history is far more superior than something that changes all the time.
David, if you're not going to
Established
answer,
history.
if you're not going to answer the question, we're just going to move on because you're wasting everybody's time by being dishonest.
Yeah,
It's a shame.
got my point across. So Jesus is omniscient because he doesn't have to say, "Do you remember when?" and he didn't have to take notes.
We don't know Jesus said any of that stuff. We don't know that the Gospels are accurate accounts of anything that Jesus said or did.
Yeah, I do.
How?
Well, I've got a lot of verification through personal experience. You may not think personal experience is good.
What's your personal verification that the Gospels are reliable? We can't even establish that they're first-person accounts.
Well, I've got personal experience with God personally. That's the thing, that God has spoken to me personally, and he's done things that I've asked him to do, and specifically. So, I mean, if somebody stomped on your head, you would probably think that's sufficient evidence, even though you don't have it recorded by a peer review team, right? Well, that's my experience.
You do not have anything in the way of evidence that is remotely in the same ballpark as someone stomping on your head.
Yes, I do.
Give me your very best one. What's your very best evidence, your very best experience that proves that the Gospels are reliable? What do you got?
Well, I'm just telling you, when I was 18, I first came to Christ.
Is this your, hang on, before you keep going, is this your best? Are you giving us your very best example?
This is my personal best example.
Okay, cool. All right, let's hear it.
You scientific evidence because we've already proven that scientific evidence is not trustworthy.
We haven't proven that at all. That's horseshit. We haven't proven that at all. So it's really frustrating how dishonest you're being. But give me your very best example, and who knows? Maybe we're all about to have a come to Jesus moment.
Well, I'm just telling you what happened to me. I didn't.
Let's hear it.
And then and all of a sudden, I started hearing about Jesus, but I didn't know anything about God until I was 18. I didn't know anything about God or science or philosophy or any of that stuff. So I was like a blank slate. So God started me because people started saying things to me. But when I called out to God, I said, "God, help me," because I was ready to commit suicide.
Okay.
My brother committed suicide. And when I said that, I didn't even have the words out of my mouth. The phone was ringing. And my dad's on the phone, and he's saying, "Son, I want to help you get your life together." Okay? That's pretty solid evidence for me.
So you have no knowledge of God and you prayed? How does that work? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I didn't even get it out of my mouth. He was answering the prayer. He already had my dad down at the Toyota dealer getting the car and placing the call before I could even voice the prayer. So
if somebody told you that if somebody told you that they called out to Allah and then the thing that they were praying for, that there was a favorable outcome in their life, would you accept that as proof of the Quran?
Yeah, because I think that Allah is Satan. And so, yeah, he's going to respond to their prayer.
Oh, boy.
So Satan does good things?
Oh, boy, David.
Man.
I listen, I talk to people with personal experiences all over the map. There are plenty of explanations for why your dad could be calling you at that moment that have nothing to do with divine intervention. Okay? Parents call their kids. That's a thing that happens. To jump from, I got a call from my dad while I was praying, to therefore the Gospels are reliable, that's nonsense, my friend.
Yeah, but see, you want to reduce it. You want to raise, this is how you want to do it. You want to raise knowledge of God to a Gnostic position where it says that the person with the most intelligence who knows the most is most likely to know about a God through science.
No, I don't. That's not my position at all, David.
It says anybody can know me. God is more equal because God establishes equality by saying that anybody can know me by faith.
Okay, and you can make all the claims you want about the nature of God, but if we're talking about knowledge, so with knowledge, I'm talking about a justified true belief. Okay, I want evidence for the things that I believe to be true. You may have heard other hosts on this platform say this. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And the way to do that is to have high evidentiary standards, is to be skeptical and to be honest, frankly, about what you're experiencing.
Your standard, though, by your standard, nobody gets to heaven because apparently nobody can hit your standard. I don't know what it is. It's apparently impossible.
Impossible for what? I believe lots of things, my friend. Listen,
under your
David,
level, everybody goes to hell because nobody is ever going to know God through science.
David, this is a silly thing. We're going to move on to other callers, but I appreciate you calling in, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. But yeah, we were at the at the tail end of that one. Arden, thoughts?
I mean, I think he reminded me of my favorite Bible verse, where it's, the disciples wanted to give God the holy notepad and pen, and he said, "No, I don't need notes." That was a good one. So
yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to move on to Justyn in Canada. Justyn has questions about marriage ceremonies as an atheist. Justyn, how can we help you?
Hey, so I'm an atheist and have been since about grade 7 here, and I've been dating my boyfriend since about grade 9, and I'm an atheist, but I have religious family, so I'm not sure how I would go about doing a ceremony without maybe upsetting some of them or anything like that.
Wow. I mean, sorry, hold on. I've got my thing in there. Justyn, this is your day. If you care about marriage and you care about having a special ceremony, there is absolutely no tradition you have to follow, and there is absolutely no one you have to please. If your parents love you and support you, they're going to be there. They're going to be ecstatic. And if it's not the ceremony they want, like, maybe they'll be a little upset about it, but I'm willing to bet that they'll get over it. I don't think you should be considering anyone else but what you and your partner want on your wedding day. I understand wanting to appease, but sorry, go ahead.
I'm someone who's like entirely indifferent to like having a religious person do the thing, because I figure you get someone who's doing it non-religiously, they're probably religious anyway, because that's the bulk of the population, at least here in Canada. So I figure it's going to be someone who's religious anyway. Why not let them say something from a fictional book? That's kind of my thinking about it. But my boyfriend, he's a bit more opposed to the stuff because he thinks it's bunk, and I agree. But
again, I think it's really important to have the ceremony how you want it. If you want to have a part that is like an ode to like your upbringing or like a shout out to your family, and you and your partner agree on what will work for the two of you, that's awesome. Do it. But I don't think any part of the day should be about like appeasing people and like including something that doesn't matter to you or that you don't believe in. This day is a celebration of you and your partner and your love. And that's what matters above any other aspect of tradition that you can include in that ceremony.
Yeah, totally. I was kind of waiting to hear, what the particular religious flavor was of your family. I mean, because I'll out myself. I'm getting married in October, and this was a thing that my fiance and I, thought about and talked about, because we wanted our day to be as inclusive to as many people as we could. But I had a hard line of like, I don't want any religious nothing at all in the ceremony, and took that position of being like, it is our day, exactly like what Arden was saying. So yeah, again, it's a deeply personal decision, but you're under no obligation to do anything for anybody here. I mean, it is all about what you and your partner want to do.
Yeah, fair enough. As for denomination, generally Protestant. My mom leans a little bit more towards Pentecostal. My dad is a deist, and that's confusing, but and my grandparents, I'm not sure about. Though I know my great-grandfather is an atheist and has been since he was about 20, so... And he was born in the 40s, so that gives you an idea of how long he's been an atheist.
Sure.
So,
I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is, I mean, are you concerned about being able to find an officiant? Are you concerned about venue? I mean, there's lots of places other than churches where you can get married. I mean, there are plenty of secular and humanist officiants out there. So there, I mean, you have options.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. I was just maybe a little bit more worried than I should have been.
Well,
I think
we don't know your family.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a very natural thing to be concerned about your family and their expectations for you and wanting to make them comfortable at a day that's important to you, to maybe like avoid conflict or something so the day can be really centered on like your love. But like, I think with a lot of these things, people really do get over it and people will learn to be okay. And I think if you just say like, hey, I love you guys, I want you here and I want you to celebrate, but understand that like, I don't believe what you believe. And this day is about our love and our ceremony. Like, I don't know if you have any siblings or relatives, but like, I'm sure there will be plenty of opportunities for them to go to weddings where God is spoken about. Yeah. If this is the one where God isn't brought up, I think that's okay.
See, there's the rub, because they don't know I'm an atheist.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of ways to have essentially just a neutral wedding where there's just no reference to religion whatsoever. And I wonder how many people would even notice, if it's just all about love and togetherness and family and sort of human values that don't require any reference to a God whatsoever. I mean, if you're concerned about offending people, I mean, there's a way to do it subtly. An atheist wedding doesn't necessarily mean you've got like, some
Bible
banner that's like, fuck God. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be some aggressive thing. It can just be a day about you and your partner.
That's fair enough. I guess I haven't seen stuff like that before. Thanks for the help. If I'm ever up by where you guys are, I'll have to stop by and bring you guys a bottle of maple syrup or something.
Heck yeah, man.
Please do.
Best of luck moving forward with that wedding.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right. Well, you as well.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, Justyn.
You as well. Bye.
Well, that's like a happy call. We have like a happy romantic call. This is nice. All right. We've got one more atheist caller that I'd like to talk to. We got Chris.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, Chris down in Georgia, who wanted to talk about talking to religious family members that do not like atheists. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great.
Yeah. So I, want to give a little bit of background, but I will try to cut it down to as simple as possible, not to take up too much time. But about 2-3 years ago, I moved to Georgia, away from where I typically lived with my family. And at some point, I got into a call with my brother, and he was talking about something that I was like manipulating my sister. And I wasn't really sure what he meant by that. And he started talking about like reading the Bible and stuff. And the only thing I thought it could be is that we had a conversation, me and my sister, like a week or so before, about meaning and like if events all have inherent meaning to them or if some things are just meaningless. And I think having that discussion maybe made her suspect that I didn't believe in God. Since then, I haven't really heard much from them at all. They've kind of been just like ignoring my texts and calls. I have visited once or twice, and they act kind of cordial while I'm there. And maybe will see me once or twice, but they don't really broach the subject. And there's times where I feel like maybe they're saying stuff about me behind my back. There's another family friend of mine who I just learned also is incommunicado with her family. And when I talked to her, she said that it was more that she was because she was bisexual and her parents didn't like that, but also she was moving away from Christianity as well. And I heard from some people that they were calling her a liar behind her back. And so it's just a very strange situation where I feel like maybe they think that I'm an atheist or something, but they don't want to talk to me about it. And they're also deeply, deeply entrenched in their specific religion. Like, I believe that they think the world's going to end soon. You know, that kind of like they're preparing for the rapture, stuff like that. So I just wanted to call and maybe get another person's take on it and what you think I should do. I've so far just kind of left the door open for conversation, and I haven't really tried to make a big deal out of it. I've asked them to kind of, hey, I'd love to communicate more if you guys could reach out more, and I haven't really heard from them. I know it's kind of difficult to give advice about talking to someone who refuses to talk to you, but I don't know, maybe just getting a fresh pair of eyes on it would be helpful.
I think the key question is, what do you want to happen? What's your goal? Because without knowing that, I don't know where to begin.
Yeah. Well, you know, I would say that I was I thought that we were very close growing up. I really valued my relationship with them my entire life. And I, you know, always saw us kind of sticking together as we got older. And so ideally, you know, in an ideal world, I would want some kind of relationship with them where I'm at least hearing from them every so often, you know, maybe some part of their life, even if indirectly or from afar, you know, them just kind of reaching out and telling me about what's going on with them. But on the other hand, you know, these last few years have made me kind of question whether at this point I even want, you know, that relationship if they're going to be this way. But I think there's still, you know, obviously a part of me that really loves them deeply and really cares about them deeply. And yeah, would prefer to be part of their life in some way.
Yeah, I think I definitely get where you're coming from, Chris. You know, if you're interested, I don't know how familiar you are with like some communication styles that we'll use in like a lot of different like therapy modalities. Like one really common one in DBT is like Dear Man. So like if you're struggling to communicate honestly how you feel with them, like, well, normally that's used for people who maybe have like a hard time regulating their emotions and might lash out at others. I think it's useful for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally a tool that like lists like steps to communicate as clearly as possible what you need in a situation. So I think it might be useful looking into things like that and being like, hey, like I want to like and come at them honestly, be like, hey, I feel like maybe we haven't been able to communicate as effective. It sounds like you maybe have already kind of done this. But just kind of like I think we haven't been able to communicate as effectively as I would like. And I feel like maybe that has something to do with my beliefs. But I would like to have a better relationship with you. And I would like to maybe get through this conversation. That way we can have more honest, like back and forth with each other. And so I can know how you're feeling. I think we often avoid talking about conflict and emotions because we're afraid of like how that'll go. But I think sometimes, even if it's bumpy and difficult for that conversation, I think kind of plowing through with the brutal honesty of what you're feeling and what your needs are is going to give you the best results.
Yeah.
What did you say that was called again? Dear Me?
No, Dear Man. Each of those letters
Dear
in that
Man.
little phrase stands for like a part of the conversation tactic. I think it's describe, explain, assert, and reinforce.
Yeah.
Which is just meant to communicate like factually what you need, communicate what your feelings are in like distinct from what they have done, and then like what your needs are. And if they try to like dodge what your needs are or like subvert your boundaries, the reinforce is just being like, hey, look, no, I understand, but I'm just communicating to you what I feel and what my needs are.
Yeah, because once you lay it all on the table and you tell your family, this is who I am and this is what I would like to be the case for us, and I want to have a relationship with you guys and I love you guys, but I'm worried about X, Y, and Z being barriers to that. So how do we move forward toward these goals, assuming we all want to be together as a family and be happy in this? It puts the ball in their court because you're basically doing everything that you can do to be honest, to be true to yourself, to express yourself to your family. And yeah, from there, hopefully they reciprocate.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, I think that's a good point, because I definitely feel like maybe I haven't been as forthcoming just because I was afraid something like this would happen. So I don't think I've ever actually discussed with them that I'm not Christian. I think my parents are kind of aware that I'm not as religious. I like don't go to church or whatever. But you know, I'm not sure what my siblings think. The reason that I haven't is because I have like a older grandmother who's getting, you know, close to probably the end of her life, and she's like super devout, and I think it would like break her heart if she found out. So that's what I think why what held me back from it. I was just kind of waiting to see if maybe I could avoid that. But there might be a way to do it with them that I could tell them, like, hey, if it's possible, like, let's not discuss this with grandma. Like, this is just between us, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, if you articulate that to your parents and it's like, listen, I want to be clear with you guys, but I'm worried about grandma. I mean, what can they do but respect that? You know, and if they don't, then that's not really your problem. You're
Right.
just trying to be a decent human being.
At that point, it's a violation of your boundaries, and you have the right to say, like, well, okay, if you're going to violate my boundaries, I don't really feel comfortable engaging or being fully honest with you about what I'm feeling, but I hope that we can still like have a relationship anyway in some capacity. I also, this book is more focused on communication styles between women, but it's 2021 and gender roles don't mean anything. I would recommend looking into any book by Harriet Lerner. The Dance of Anger in particular is a really good one. She's a psychologist, and like a lot of her research is based in like having like effective communication. She works with couples and families a lot to learn how to like bridge those gaps. That there's a lot of really valuable information that I think anyone can glean from those books on like how to be honest with the people in your life about what you're feeling and what your needs are. And look into those communication styles. I think that stuff can be really valuable.
Yeah, what did you say the book was called again?
The one in particular that I like the most is called The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, yeah, at this point, I'll kind of do anything because it's better than no communication at all. So
Definitely.
I really appreciate you guys' take on it. And yeah, that was really helpful.
Awesome.
Best of luck, Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Right. Ironically, The Dance of Anger is also the name of the new metal collaboration that I'm doing with Katie Montgomery. We're coming out with
Yeah.
The Dance of Anger. It's going to be what we call ourselves. So it's interesting. It's also
Good
a book.
one. Sounds right. We gotta put in one of those metal band name logo generators.
Yeah. The Dance of Anger. All right. Looking at the calls that we've got, does anyone stand out to you, Arden, as being especially juicy?
I don't have call-in studio set up.
All right. Well, let's just dive in with Joe here.
I'm on. You're steering the ship.
Okay. All right. Joe in Virginia says you have questions for me. What do you want to know?
Hey, Kenneth, you remember me?
I do, Joe. How's it going?
This is our third time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can ask them to both of you, but you're a big MMA jiu-jitsu guy, right?
Used to be, yeah, a long time ago.
You get your black belt?
No. Purple, which is the most fabulous of the belts.
Yeah, purple's good enough. I mean, you can kick people's butt with a purple belt. I'm a big jiu-jitsu guy, so.
Okay, all right.
But, okay, yeah, I just wanted to, I call you because I kind of think you're one of the most reasonable guys to actually have a real conversation with, so.
I hope I don't disappoint. Arden's here. Arden's even more reasonable than I am, so you're in luck today. Just
depends what you're gonna say.
Yeah, just an explosion of reason over here.
Yeah, I don't want anything to be combative or anything. I'm not really interested in arguing, so.
Okay.
Just a few questions. Okay.
What can we do for you?
Do you think God exists or God does not exist, and how confident are you in whichever one you believe?
Ooh, I like it. We've turned the interview format around onto the host. I love this. Okay. I am not convinced that any gods exist. And based on the definitions that I've been given for various gods, my confidence level is at a 0 that any of those gods exist.
And I guess that's probably the same for you, Arden, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I might be like a 1%, like a deistic, polytheistic kind of conception of like the universe God. This like that like makes sense, but like I don't believe in it, and at that point, it seems so indistinguishable from a non-God that I'm like, this has no value to me. That's like saying like my water bottle is God. Like, okay, maybe, but that doesn't mean anything. So.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to anybody. I don't think people saying the universe is God makes any sense. So, okay. So you think? So Kenneth, you think it's equivalent to Santa Claus, right?
No, because I think that there's, I'm kind of talking on my ass right now, but I'm pretty sure there's like a historical Saint Nicholas. Whereas with God, I think that, where there's legends that are built into the Santa Claus thing, I think that as far as I can tell, every time I hear God invoked as an explanation for something or as a being that people can have a relationship with, it seems to be sort of just this invented fiction thing.
Yeah, I was just talking about Santa Claus. There's some guy in the North Pole,
Sure.
We both know that that's pretty much 0%.
I would agree.
All right. Do you think that you have any bias and that maybe there are reasons people do not want God to exist, and maybe there are reasons people have their own personal bias, maybe that they don't want God to exist, and maybe some people have their personal bias they want God to exist?
I would certainly agree that people have biases where they would want, certain things to be true or not to be true. And I bet Arden would have a lot more interesting stuff to say about the sort of mechanics of those biases than I can. But my bias, I try very, very hard to encourage my bias for wanting strong evidence-based beliefs. I want to believe true things. So, and there's a number of ways out there to sort of become aware of cognitive traps, to become aware of biases, to try to mitigate the risk of things that are going to cloud you coming to true conclusions. So I'm very much biased towards learning as much as I can about those things so that I don't accept any nonsense or bullshit, and the things that I believe I've got good reasons. Yeah,
I mean, if the Christian God exists and I'm going to hell for being me, and being me literally hurts no one, that's a pretty strong bias I'm going to have to be like skeptical of whether this God exists. Cause to me, that sounds like bullshit. I'm not hurting anyone. I can't control who I am. If I'm going to go to hell for that, that's pretty wild. So like, I think it is a bias that like would cause me to be skeptical in the first place. But I think when you apply skepticism and like good evidentiary standards and evaluate the claims like on an individual basis, you can kind of skirt the bias. Like, of course, there are going to be gaps. And of course, there's probably going to be times when people point out like, hey, like you maybe rejected this claim with not good reason. And if that's the case, I hope that I can be intellectually honest and say, yeah, actually, you're right. You know what? I'm going to take some time to evaluate this claim a little more deeply and hopefully have a more evidence-based position on it.
Yeah. And I'm super prone to irrationality. I'm super prone to having stupid biased beliefs. I don't think there's a single human being on earth who isn't susceptible to bias. No. So.
Okay. I mean, there are parts of me, like I'm a theist, and there's parts of me that doesn't want God to exist. So, I think it can go both ways. That I think there's plenty of reasons to not. My personal view of kind of this online atheist movement is nothing personal against you guys, but I think it's much more of I think it's a lot of it has to do with kind of psychological and mental desires as much as it is intellectual. And I'm not talking about you specifically, but that's just how I see it.
Well, I mean, in light of the fact that you are just talking to us today, I can tell you that to me, the question of whether God exists or not, my want shouldn't come into it. It either is the case that God exists or it is not the case. And then based on what the evidence tells me, I need to, live accordingly. Because yeah, if the gods that people tell me exist are in fact real, then me saying I don't want to believe that could put me in a pretty shitty position in light of claims about eternity and all that stuff. So I think that I don't think it's ever a good thing for us to delude ourselves or to allow ourselves to cave to motivated reasoning and base our beliefs on what we want to be the case. I think that's a good way to be wrong, and I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
All right, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
Do you apply the same skepticism to your own atheist beliefs?
Give me an example of an atheist belief.
Okay, well, you don't have to believe this as an atheist, but generally, people believe, probably in abiogenesis or macroevolution. I would say probably generally, not everybody. And I don't know if you've ever seen what the odds are of even maybe like a single protein coming from life, coming from non-life.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I give you a quote?
Sure. Give us a quote.
Okay. The chance that higher life forms have emerged through evolutionary processes is comparable with the chance that a tornado sweeping through a junkyard.
Don't say a 747. Don't say a 747.
My 7th grade science teacher told me that. Oh, Jesus,
Joe.
Joe.
No, Joe. That's terrible. That's not true.
You know who said it?
I'm gonna just throw, I don't know, Ken Ham. Who said that?
Fred Hoyle, the father of who coined the Big Bang cosmology. So
Okay.
he's a pretty reputable scientist.
Well, I mean, the term Big Bang was originally used as a pejorative, right?
I don't know the history. I just know that
You can look that up. Look, here's the deal. So that statement would there's two layers here. One, you said he was a reputable source, and we need to talk about that. But first, the idea that a tornado ripping through a junkyard would produce a 747, that is in any way analogous to evolution is nonsense, and it betrays a deep ignorance when it comes to what evolution is. Because there's no selection methods at play with the tornado. There's nothing going on there where you would arrive at
starting from non-life.
Life starting from non-life has nothing to do with evolution.
Well, it has to start abiogenesis, right?
That has nothing to do with evolution.
Well, evolution has to start somewhere, right?
Sure.
So life eventually had to start from non-life.
There's a lot of people that don't believe that. There's a ton of Christians out there who think that God created life and then evolution got us to where we are today. What would you say to those people?
What do you believe?
I'm asking you. You're the guest. So, because the evolution is a fact and the evidence for evolution is conclusive. So, whether life was...
Are you talking about microevolution or macroevolution?
Yes.
Which macro?
All of it.
So macroevolution is a fact.
All of it. All of evolution is a fact.
No, I'm just talking. They're different things, right? Microevolution.
No, they're not different things. They're not different things. The only difference is time. No, the only difference is time.
I thought macroevolution was different from microevolution.
It's not. These distinctions are used by creationists.
Oh, Kenneth's cutting out.
All right, so you're sure?
To confuse.
There you go. Oh, is he back?
There we go. I'm back. Yeah.
Okay,
the thing I said, I'm having tech issues today. I'm sorry,
That's
folks.
okay.
No, these terms, micro and macroevolution, these are terms that have been popularized and they're used by creationists to confuse people. But there's evolution. And there are a number of different methods of selection that operate within the broader theory of evolution and how we refer to the process by which we arrived at diversity on this planet with respect to life and biology. Okay, so whether life started by abiogenesis or Jesus is irrelevant to the fact that evolution happened and is happening.
Okay. Well, if you say it's a fact, I mean, I don't don't agree that macroevolution is a fact. I mean, you may say this, but
Don't believe me. Don't believe me. Listen, Joe, do not believe me. I want you to assume that I am completely full of shit, and I want you to go to the nearest college and knock on a biology professor's door and say, this asshole on the internet told me this thing, and then let that guy or woman or whoever, let that person explain it to you. But don't believe me. Test it.
How did you get that evidence that macroevolution is a fact?
I mean, I don't even know where to begin. We can talk about genetics. We can talk about the fossil record. I mean, it's everywhere. But this is not really the forum for it. You need to go on the Talk Origins website. Go on Wikipedia. Don't believe me. Just I'm telling you. I'm asking you. Apply the level of skepticism that you would to anything, and then go see what the scientific literature says. Go to your local museum. Go digging.
Do you think we evolved from a fish?
A fish?
Yeah.
I do not think we evolved from a fish. I don't think any scientist would tell you that was the case either.
That's what Richard Dawkins believes.
I don't think that's an accurate or fair or honest assessment of what Professor Dawkins believes.
If you go far back enough on the evolutionary, quote unquote tree, are you going to find organisms who primarily were aquatic? Sure.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Does that mean that we came from fish? That's a really loaded statement to disagree or disagree to.
Kenneth, you can look it up on the internet. Richard Dawkins says it, so don't call me dishonest for saying something.
I've read Dawkins' books. I've even spent time with the man personally, and I'm 100% sure that nowhere in any of his literature, there might be one or two of his books that I haven't read. I don't recall ever seeing we came from a fish ever anywhere.
I've seen him say it. He said it on the internet. You can look it up. Why don't you go?
Okay, Joe, I'll humor you. Yes. Like I said, if we go back far enough, there is fish in our evolutionary history, sure. But yeah, I when you say we came from fish, I'm getting the impression that you think when someone says that they mean a fish had a baby and that baby was a human, at some point in our history, and that's not what anyone is saying.
No, I didn't quite say that. I said, do you believe we evolved from fish? And Kenneth said, no, Richard Dawkins did not say that. I'm sorry.
Right, because Kenneth can sniff out that you're trying to give us a very loaded statement when you say that. I don't think Kenneth is denying that there are fish in our evolutionary history.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine.
And we could know that by looking at our genetic makeup and looking at the genetic makeup of different, aquatic creatures, mammals and otherwise. I mean, we could look at this and trace that history.
Okay. All right. Well, he did say that, but either way.
Okay.
Do you think an infinite regress of the events is possible?
I don't know. Sure.
Maybe. I don't know.
You think an infinite regress of temporal events is actually possible?
I don't know.
Hypothetically? Or do you mean like that it has literally happened? Again, you're serving these loaded statements, and it feels like you're trying to trap us and saying these things.
And our understanding of time. I mean, time, breaks down and gets funny once we get closer and closer to the Big Bang, right? So I'm not sure that the question even makes sense. But what's the point?
And again,
I'm just saying that. I'm just trying to question you guys. I'm not trying to do anything personal. I'm not hating on you because you're atheist. I'm just trying to be skeptical.
I just want to know your point. I feel like you're trying to get to a point by asking us questions, and I feel like we're not getting anywhere. So is there a deeper point to your call that you're trying to demonstrate that by answering these questions that we are not being logical in our beliefs, or where are you going with this?
Yeah. What's the point?
I'm sorry you don't like being questioned. No,
it's not that.
Nobody said they didn't. Yeah, nobody said they didn't like being questioned. But this is a call-in show with limited time. We've got other callers too, so we're trying to be respectful to everybody. So, what's the point of the questions? Where's it going?
Well, if logically an infinite regression of events is impossible, I think it's pretty, and I think you should show the same level of skepticism to even that even being possible.
Okay, we're not any closer to a point. What's the point here, Joe?
All right. I just don't think this is going anywhere. But Kenneth,
I agree.
I appreciate it.
Joe,
Cool.
you're killing me here, man. So wait a minute. So you're a theist, right? Did we lose Joe? Joe's gone. Man, right when it could have gotten interesting. Well, hey, I'm glad we could clear some stuff up.
Cool. Again, if his whole point was to say that he thinks logical and like regressive events is impossible, like, okay, that's I mean, you think that if that's all you want to say, that's fine, I guess.
And just to clear this up for Joe, I mean, Joe, I said I don't know, and that's the deal with skeptics. Sometimes the best thing we can say is I don't know, because if I want to proportion my beliefs to the evidence, and I don't have strong evidence that, or any evidence that an infinite regress is possible or impossible, and I don't know, I don't even understand the question that you're trying to get at,
right.
Then saying I don't know is the honest thing to do.
I agree. But that's why I was also kind of like, hypothetically, can I imagine that an infinite regressive event is possible? But like, are we talking about in the real world? Do I actually think that's happened? That's a completely different question.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
anyway.
All right. We got Kevin in New York. Let's talk to Kevin. Kevin wants to make an argument, I understand. Kevin, what can we do for you?
Oh, hey, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to bring up the subject of the modal ontological argument. And try to discuss that with you guys. Well, from a theist perspective, I think it follows that I would have bias against that argument. But please stop me if I'm wrong. Doesn't the modal ontological argument have to do with of all possible worlds sort of thing?
A modal logic would, yeah. So, yeah.
Yes. It sort of leads into questions like if there's a God, then it sort of dwells into the imagination a little bit. If there's a God, then why is this way and not that way? You know what I mean? Or
I'm not sure I'm following. What's the specific question?
Well, I kind of want to refute that argument because, I mean, in my opinion, it kind of leads to a mental regression. You know what I mean? Because just say for the sake of argument that you want to make a movie using things that nobody has ever seen before, make a movie that nobody's never seen using things that nobody has ever seen. Those things are impossible. And so it ends up with a mental regression that it follows logically that there are assignments to nature.
Well, I'm not sure how we're getting here from the modal ontological argument. Would you mind, just for the sake of our listeners, giving a summary of what you're referring to when you talk about the modal ontological argument?
Well, I've heard different scenarios brought up with the modal ontological argument. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Usually stemming something from the imagination.
Right. With the ontological argument, I mean, we can take this all the way back to Anselm, right? I mean, the idea is that we're talking about beings that we can conceive of, or the greatest possible beings, or maximally great beings, right? But there's no reason to think that just because we can conceive of something, or that something theoretically would be maximally great, that it would exist. I mean, that's kind of the big hang up that I've always had with that argument, is that it smuggles in existence as a positive feature of something without ever really justifying that. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yes, and that's why we kind of have to, in my opinion, expand our thinking on certain things, especially when it comes to the fundamental things that we know about reality, such as time, for example. Time, in my opinion, shows illusionary aspects. That's why we can live in a universe and on an Earth where there are time zones, or we're only seeing the light that comes from the sun 8 minutes ago, the light that comes from the moon 3 seconds ago. And as we look out into the universe, we're looking into the past. You know what I mean? So
I do.
So to get more to the point, that leads me to the conclusion that time isn't necessarily as we think it is, and that time wouldn't exist without movement.
What does this have to do with what does this have to do with theism or a god, Kevin?
It has to do with a god because it leads me to think that there had to have been a personal agent that gets the ball moving, for a lack of a better way to say it.
Okay, so when your conception of God, then if I'm understanding, you're going with sort of the prime mover thing. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
And it's because of time?
Well, that's only one aspect of it, because I have also came to the conclusion that it seems like there'd be no time without movement. The movement of heavenly bodies that we see out in the universe. But not to stray to a different subject, but it may seem dull and boring at first, but of all the inventive or artistic creativity that's ever happened, ultimately regresses to the obscure infinite mind, which we would call God.
Well, I don't know how we would justify that.
There's a limit.
I think that I mean, it seems like I don't know why we would think that creativity isn't something that comes down to just the minds of human beings, or I'm not sure where this call is going, Kevin. I mean, I understand that people think that there needed to have been sort of this prime mover to get the show off the ground at the beginning. I understand there's a lot of mystery in the universe and a lot of things that we don't understand. I don't understand though where the leap is made to there's a lot of stuff we don't understand, therefore God.
Well, I guess it kind of brings up something you said earlier on the show, that we for believers and non-believers, we constantly fall into the trap of wanting things to be the way we want it to be. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Bias is a problem.
Yes. But when we constantly check ourselves and take a step back, we, in my opinion, realize that there are assignments to the ways, to the way things are in reality.
What would be an example?
Well, an example was like the scenario I brought to you before. Say, just for the sake of argument, you're trying to make a movie
Okay.
that nobody has ever seen, using things that nobody has ever seen before.
Okay.
Possible. It's always a regression to what is, what always, to things that have always been.
Right. So when we look at the nature of reality, when we look at the nature of reality and the universe that we find ourselves in, I mean, there's sort of a set of things that exist, right? And those things that exist seem to behave the way that they behave. I don't know why we would need to assume that there's some cosmic filmmaker that made these things this way. That's just adding an unnecessary entity as far as I can tell.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. It's kind of on a whim that I thought about this. You know what I mean? But it just as I said, it seems kind of contradictory to what we would perceive as reality, that when we look out into the universe, we're actually looking out into the past. And
Sure.
when you delve into that and realize that say if you were to get into a spaceship and travel to that destination you're looking at, it would be 100% different than when you were looking at it.
Sure.
And that's the fact of our universe. And so there are kind of time bubbles that happen within our reality. And I think there's a personal aspect to all of this.
I hear that you think that. I just don't understand why. I would encourage you, just because we're running out of time, to maybe think about really clearly articulating the why, or identifying some feature of reality that you see that you think really needs some sort of agency behind it for it to be the way that it is, and call us back with the why, because I get that you believe that there has to be this agency, but I'm not sure we have time to dig into the why right now.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for your questions as well. I'm definitely going to give it some more thought. Thank you.
Hey, we're all just trying to give it more thought, man. Have a great rest of your weekend, Kevin. Thank you for calling in. We got another caller over here on the line. We lost one that I wanted to take. Bummer. All right. Let's see. We've got Moldred in New York calling in. Hey, what's going on? You want to talk about post-bereavement hallucinatory experiences?
Oh, thank you for pronouncing that, because I was having trouble with the call screener, especially about hallucinas, whatever.
I have the best words, so.
You have the best words, yeah. But yeah. Thank you for saying it so I don't have to. Okay, anyway, that explains the what I've seen sort of out of the corner of my eye, or like in flashes. Both of my parents passed away, and my sister passed away 2 years ago, and I've seen like glimpses of them since, and that PBHE sort of explains that. But what it doesn't seem to explain is back last century, I lived at two locations, and one location I saw something that was an apparition of the person that built the place that I was in, and a few years later I was living in a house in Brooklyn, and I also saw the person who built that house. Now, I had no personal connection with them. The closest I had was when the first apparition that I saw was the late husband of the woman who ran this youth hostel in the south of France that I was staying at, and I was about to go into the wine cellar or beer cellar that he built to get a cold beer. And I saw this sort of apparition, sort of blocking the door. It was a little bit vague, but it was definitely recognizable as a person. And so I didn't go into the wine beer cellar. And somebody came a little bit later and started to walk into the wine or beer cellar, and the ground underneath, it was built on a concrete platform. They stepped just before the doorway, and they fell through, and they injured themselves. So I don't know what that was about. And then the other,
wait a minute. You're saying, okay. Before you keep going, there's so much on the table that we would need to talk about. I would love to hear what Arden has to say about this. I can see the wheels turning over there.
I appreciate that you understand what a PBHE is, and that you can acknowledge that even when you were seeing your loved ones, that's more likely what it was. Yeah, I find it fascinating that you are more convinced that. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get into what you think. I want to know why, when it's with your personal relationships, you understand that it's maybe like a psychological thing happening, but when it's these Carpenter ghosts that you have no relationship to, why suddenly you think it's a supernatural thing going on? Why do you think there's a difference there? I don't understand.
No, I do not believe in the supernatural. If anything happens, it's natural. We just don't have an explanation for it. I'm asking you if you have any idea why or how this might have happened.
Yeah, I think so. Like, even in the instances where you said out of the corner of your eye you thought you saw a loved one after they passed away, I would even be careful about jumping to calling that a PBHE. Like, we like humans, especially when it comes to like our visual processing, we fill in so much of the details after the fact. A lot of what you are seeing and gathering, your brain is piecing together. If there's a change of light or a movement or like an insect that's maybe like a little closer than you realize flying by your peripheral vision, your brain can pick that up and fill in so many details that aren't actually there. So
yeah,
like if you saw these Carpenter ghosts, like I believe that you think you saw something and that your best explanation for it was these ghosts who constructed these houses or whatever. But I don't see why you are convinced that they were ghosts, and specifically ghosts who built the house you were in. Like, these are leaps that I like don't understand how you can fill in.
Oh, well, the first one, the woman who owned the youth hostel showed me a picture later of her late husband, and that was the guy. That was what I saw. I don't remember seeing that picture before I told her about it.
Moldred, that makes me even more concerned. If you didn't identify that it was the person who constructed the house until you saw a picture after the fact, like not only is our visual processing like inherently flawed, but our memories are actively reconstructed. If you saw a picture and then you went, hey, that kind of looks like that thing I saw out of the corner of my eye one time in a basement of a place, that I would be far more convinced that you like misattributed the characteristics of that thing you thought you saw to the person in the picture than that there was actually a connection there.
I would urge you to look at the sort of impressionability that people have with looking at like police lineups. If they've been primed in any way to pick a certain person out of the lineup, how it can completely mess up some poor dude's life who's just standing there, you know? Yeah, our brains are weird, man. That's kind of, as many leading scientists have said.
To be accurate, it wasn't a basement. It was a concrete terrace that like built on the
okay, no offense, but that detail is kind of irrelevant to whether or not there was actually a ghost.
Actually, I was once mistaken for a biker that the police were looking for, but I managed to come up with an alibi on the spot and got out of having any problems with that. Would you be interested? I'm a minister in the Church of Universal Light, and I performed a couple of secular marriage ceremonies. Would you like to hear exactly how I what I said?
That to me sounds like something maybe you could share on like the Discord after the fact. I think right now I'm far more interested in the fact that you believe you saw ghosts, but yeah, I don't know, Kenneth. Where are you feeling about this?
Do you believe that you saw ghosts, or do you think that it's just some unexplained phenomena where your brain showed you something?
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe in like the standard viewpoint of ghosts. Being as I run my life by maybe logic, I don't assign 100%. Yes, no to anything. I just think that I'd say about seeing ghosts, I'd give it like a 50% probability.
That's a really high probability. Yeah, that's super high.
If you're living logically and you saw something and you think like, oh, it could be a ghost, it could not, wouldn't the better thing to do to say like, until I can be sure that it was a ghost or a spirit, it's probably not reasonable to believe in that. And until such time, I should probably believe that it was pareidolia or it was like a PBHE or something along those lines, something that we know happens that isn't effective like our human brain's like flawed processing of visual stimuli.
Well, I find the universe more interesting if I entertain the possibility that there's something.
But Moldred, finding the universe interesting if something happens and whether or not it actually is the case are two very different things. I find the universe more interesting if I could turn into a dragon and fly, but that doesn't mean I have reason to believe that maybe I could.
That'd be tight. Yeah. that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, it's, I understand that. One of these days, I was going to call into your transatlantic show about being a furry, but I might do that.
Hey,
but, yeah, basically,
go for it, man.
I'd love to be able to turn into a anthropomorphic animal, but I don't expect it to happen, and I don't expect that ghosts are real. I'm just saying that the more interesting if I say, everything. I'm going to call in one of these days about the logic that people talk about that there's no middle, that things either are or aren't, because I suspect that there's a gray area. Nothing is black and white. There's always a gray area between everything.
But that's just not true. You might not have a certainty of what things are, but they definitely, absolutely are or are not.
It is either true or not true that everything has a gray area.
Oh, Jesus, Kenneth.
This is true. Yeah, like I like to say that the only absolute is that there are no absolutes, and I'm not absolutely sure about that.
Yeah. I would look at some logic stuff before making that call. But Moldred, your call has been one of my favorites today by far. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and yeah, call back.
Okay, live long and prosper.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Right on.
I think that like the big message for today is that, yes, that just because you might want to turn into a big anthropomorphic furry animal doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen.
Yeah. I had a roommate who we're still good friends, and since then I know that they've become more skeptical because I pushed them to watch shows like this. But they used to say that they believed in ghosts, and I was like, why? And they're like, oh, well, it's just more interesting to me to think about that kind of thing. Yeah, it's interesting, but that's why you like write a book. You write a fiction book to like live in that fantasy for a little bit, but then come back to the real world where we acknowledge that like that would be interesting, but we don't actually have evidence to believe that.
Yeah. No, I saw a thing this week about how when the president, I guess, got off his plane for this summit in Europe, right, that's going on, that a cicada landed on him, and the QAnon people thought that was really something because Q was the 17th letter of the alphabet, and the cicadas come around every 17 years. Therefore, some weird shit's going on. And I understand the allure of thinking, I mean, yeah, life would be much more interesting if there was a bunch of crazy stuff going on. But I think it's interesting enough as is, you know?
I think the world is so fascinating as it is. Like, man, have you ever sat out and looked at a night sky and look at like the stars and shit? That's incredible and beautiful. And you don't need ghosts or magic or anything to appreciate how beautiful that is. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, let me reiterate, there are ways you can support Talk Heathen. If you're watching, if you're listening, you can become a member. If you're listening, it's going to be harder. But if you're watching, you can click the join button below the video. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. Go check out our channel where you can get all of the ACA shows as audio podcast forms. If you don't want to look at us, visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. Go become part of the Talk Heathen community in our fan-run Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/TalkHeathenFG. There's a lot of great people on there. So be sure to check that out. And if you want to keep talking to us, join us over in ACD, our fan-run Discord server at tiny.cc/ACA Discord. We're going to be there right after this. And be sure to stick around for the nonprofits, which is going to be on at 3. So can we get our crew cam? Can we show the beautiful
go crew
people, the fantastic, amazing people who actually make all this happen? We've got the crew cat. We've got everybody waving and smiling. I mean, I love every single person in that image. This is wonderful. Thank you, crew. And to our viewers, thank you. Whether or not you believe, it's okay. If you don't believe, this is your community. We're here for you, and we're really happy that you're here. I can't thank you enough for tuning in. On the other hand, if you do believe, we don't hate you. We're just not convinced.